Hello and welcome to Otterwood Cottage, our beautiful small holding in the heart of the Lincolnshire countryside. I'm Emma and we're delighted to have you along with us. Today is Sunday, day 2 of our week off. Mr H is back at it with the digger, getting on with the pond. That's probably going to be his life now for the next week. We think it's probably going to take a week to get that pond dug. I am definitely going to have a go in the digger at some point before it leaves, but he seems to be doing brilliantly. He's got into a real rhythm of it, and so he's cracking on with getting that. He's got a plan for how he's going to dig. This morning I have been a bit distracted by a side quest, so I have started to do some work on the flower bed that's in the front garden just behind me, which I'll show you in a second. And Wilkes had already started doing some work out here. So this is a bed which is planted up with mainly hydrangeas, a few other plants, and had been done in a kind of Mediterranean style with pea shingle all between them. Very beautiful, very formal, and a stunning style, but as you may have gathered if you've been with us for a while, not really our style, a formal style, not really ours. And we are really looking for something to keep the hydrangeas, but get more of them in the bed, make it look fuller, more kind of lush, have some taller growth up back. And Wilkes is going to take this bed on as his baby, and he's got some seeds that he's growing. He's going to take cuttings from the hydrangea. So he had already started to remove the pea shingle from the top, and honestly I'd thought there would be a couple of barrowfuls of that. It would just be a kind of small amount on the top, and we were going to use it in the entranceway to the fruit cage, which is very wet, and the wood chip path isn't quite working just in the entrance doorway, so we were going to use the pea shingle there. Anyway, when he's come to do it, it turns out it's really quite deep pea shingle on here, and I'll show you now just how much is coming off. So he had already managed to take all of this off of the bed, and there is still shingle on there. This morning I've taken this pile off, and I've probably only done about 1/5 of the additional pea shingle that was on the top. So there's still an awful lot to come off. Now what that means is that we are going to have quite a lot of material which we can repurpose. You heard me say, if you watched yesterday's video, you will have heard me say that we're going to be digging a trench around the pond and a filter kind of channel from that trench towards the ditch that runs along this edge of the property, and that will be lined with pea shingle and a perforated pipe as a drainage system for the pond. We thought we were going to have to buy a huge amount of pea shingle to do that. We probably still will need to buy some in, but we have a starting point, so we have a fair amount to be able to use for that purpose. So always fantastic to be able to repurpose product. We're a pretty blank canvas here on the small holding, so we haven't had lots of material to be able to repurpose. So actually it's been quite exciting to realise that we've got something that we can use elsewhere. So I've been starting to, or continuing to, scrape the pea shingle away, piling that up in the corner ready to use elsewhere on property. And then there is still some compost on the hard standing. We'd removed enough of it to get the digger through. There's still some compost on the hard standing, which then I'll bring over to this bed and give it a really thick mulch. So I'll show you the bed now and you can see what we've been doing. So to give you an idea of the bed, it runs all along this side of the driveway. It's a pretty big bed, and as you can see, lots of hydrangea, a couple of trees. I think that's a silver birch there, not quite sure what that one is. Another plant there which I need to look up, but mostly these hydrangeas, which I also need to cut back because they are ready to have a good hard prune before we get to the end of winter. So you can see how we've already piled up some compost ready to spread out, but you can see what the look was before all of this pea shingle, most of which has been picked up, but there's still an awful lot to scrape off. And underneath that is this weed membrane, which I'm taking off. Now, each to their own. I'm not a massive fan of this weed membrane, and the reason I'm not a fan is because it shreds. And having had an allotment where we spent 2 years digging these strands out from under our beds where this stuff had been used, I don't particularly love it. I know that it has its place and its purpose, but you can see I'm pulling that back and taking that away from the bed. Now, we're not going to throw that away because I don't just want it to go to landfill. Where we can use it is not to bury it, because that's when it starts to shred and decompose and disappear into the soil. But if we do have areas where we want to kill off some grass because we're going to put a bed down, we can just lay it on top of the grass, put some bricks on top, so we can use it that way. So we will fold it up and keep it. We won't just send it to landfill, but we're not going to keep it on the beds. Now, one of the things I thought was really interesting, if I just take you over here, was if you look, you can see how the roots from these plants have grown pretty much on the surface of the soil under that weed membrane, which I thought, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've just, because we've never really used membrane, never really seen that, I thought it was quite interesting. That's going to get a really good deep mulch of this fantastic compost. Now you can see this is the area I have scraped off, but you can see there is still a fair bit of gravel shingle that has stayed in the bed, which I can't get out. That's got kind of caught up in the mud, and without digging mud out as well, I'm just going to need to leave that. Now what I'm telling myself, which is probably a load of rubbish, but it's making me feel better, is that'll be good for drainage. So I'll just leave that there and cover it up. The proper gardeners among you are probably shaking your heads and holding your head in your hands. But that's how I'm cheering myself up that I haven't managed to get all of the shingle out. So I'm going to crack on with this bed, because that helps me to move that pile of compost, and also means that the pea shingle can be piled up over there, ready to use out in the field once we are ready to go. Dodos, hello, 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 good boy. Come on, Ava, you coming? We're at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun's come out with a tiny bit of blue sky. It's still freezing, but it's so lovely to see the sun. And I thought I'd give you a quick update on how Mr. H is getting on with the pond dig. So I have been doing the bed, which I'll show you in a moment. I'll just take you over and let you see how that's coming on. All right, so I think the first thing you can see is that he has dug all around the edges, already filling with water, and the amount of spoil already just from the edges, and then he's starting to take from that area there. You can see just how much is coming out of the ground. It's an enormous amount of detritus. I'll take you this way so you can see the extent of it all the way around. So it is definitely a slow, but I think pretty satisfying job. Bring you back around this side. So I think that's there because the bucket keeps filling up with clay, which is getting stuck in the bucket. So every now and again, he has to jump out and dig the bucket out, which slows things somewhat. But coming around to the other side of the pond, one little patch of grass in the middle there, look. So the kidney shape is coming around here and in and out and round. And I mean, if we were in any doubt that the clay might hold water, I think that's probably answering our question although we do have an exceptionally high water table at the moment because of all the rain that we've been having. It's actually, I don't know if you can see on camera, it's really quite clear already where it's settling. The sediment where he's dug earlier, this must have been yesterday's digging. But good progress being made. Excellent driving skills from Mr. H. Check it out. What a ledge. He's showing off in reverse now. So it's pretty dark, but the light on the camera is not doing a bad job of showing you how the bed is now looking. And almost finished. There is a tiny bit in that corner where you can see there's still gravel to move. And we have shifted a significant amount of this compost onto the bed and taken this much gravel off the beds. So if you ever wondered what it was like to own a small holding, basically you move piles of stuff from one place to another ad infinitum. Okay, as you can see, the light is gone. We'll see you tomorrow.